Today on the Bar Business Podcast, learn why vague manager updates are costing you up to 10 hours per week and creating decision paralysis within your business. Discover the 1-3-1 rule, a 3-minute communication protocol that turns every manager or team update into actionable intelligence, and master the 72-hour implementation plan that trains your managers and your team to bring you solutions instead of problems. Hello and welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. The Bar Business Podcast is brought to you by QuickSpec. And full disclosure, I'm a co-founder. We built QuickSpec to give you back your time and help you work smarter, not harder. QuickSpec connects your POS data, layers in real-world context, and gives you actionable forecasts and KPI dashboards that allow you to make data-driven decisions so you can spend less time guessing and more time on what matters. Staff smarter, order better. Stop planning for rushes that never show up or getting caught off guard by the ones that do. When you make decisions based upon real data, not guesswork, you get your time back and your team runs smoothly. Check it out at quickspec.com. That's QUIXSPEC.com. And make sure to sign up for our early access program on the homepage. Today, we're talking all about manager communication and decision velocity. And one of the things that happens way too often in this business, and I know as an owner, I got these calls all the time, where you get a call in the middle of the night, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we don't have enough beer to restock, or hey, we have this problem. And we're told, hey, there's a problem. Hey, we're all stressed out. Talk to you tomorrow. We try to fall back asleep. We can't because we're too worried about what's going on in our bar. And it just kind of ruins everything. And the bottom line here is if you're working on doing everything right, if you're optimizing your forecast, if you're negotiating with your distributors, if you're building staff programs, that's all critical work. But when you don't have a communication system for your team and your managers to communicate effectively and quickly with you, you're creating a situation where you're not able to actually manage your business. So yeah, we need to get everything in line, but communication is the way that has to happen. And so if we have poor communications, we're wasting time. We have opportunity costs that's huge because we're delaying our decisions. We have managers that may or may not be making the right choices because we're all not communicating well. So the whole purpose of today's show is to talk about a 3-minute update. And this is something that you should train your managers to do. This is something you should train your key employees to do. And the main point behind this, right? And I want to just stop for a second and talk a little bit about this. What does vague communication actually cost us? Yeah, it costs us a lot of time. But you ask your manager, hey, how was the shift last night? And they're probably going to tell you something like, it was a pretty good shift. We had some issues with the POS. You're going to ask a bunch of questions after that. You're going to have to dive in. What was wrong with the POS? Well, what effect did that have? Was customer service okay? You're going to ask all these questions. And quite frankly, most of those you're going to realize the answer doesn't really help you. That's why you keep asking questions. So you can spend all this time trying to figure out, okay, what happened? How do I adjust to it? When in reality, you just could have given your manager a simple guideline on how to communicate with you. So before we get into that simple guideline, I just want to once again kind of hit on our major points here and why we need to do this. Decision delay, right? If you don't have the information to make a decision immediately, and those problems persist for a week or 2 or 3 or a month or 2, which quite frankly happens all the time in our industry, well, that's going to cost you some money. If you're constantly asking questions, trying to figure out what went wrong as an owner, that's going to cause you to burn out. You're probably already working 50 plus hours a week. If you're not, you're one of the lucky ones. But if you're working 50 plus hours a week, being able to cut out 5 hours of communication a week is huge for your lifestyle. And the other thing is, if our managers aren't set up for success, if we're not giving them the tools and the ways to communicate and be successful, we're not helping them advance. We're not making their job better. And as I've said many times, your team culture becomes your customer service culture. How you treat your team is how they treat your guests. So be smart, train them, develop them, because then they will take better care of your guests. So the answer to all of this becomes what I like to call the 1-3-1 rule. And the 1-3-1 rule is a communications protocol. It has 3 components to it. 1 problem, 3 data points, 1 recommendation. So 1 problem, 3 data points, 1 recommendation, 1-3-1. The problem is going to be a single measurable metric or specific issue. So to go back to that prior example we had, the POS went down. 3 data points. It was down for 25 minutes. We took cards offline during that time period. We slightly delayed customer checkouts when it first went down. And because of that, we comped $100 worth of drinks or whatever happened, right? So problem, POS went down, 3 data points. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what's happened. Recommendation, 1 specific action the manager thinks should be taken. So for example, that 1 recommendation could be, this is the 3rd time this has happened in the last 2 months. We should look at backup internet options so that we don't lose connectivity and our POS doesn't go down. So 1 problem, 3 data points, 1 recommendation. And that's it. No more than 3 data points, not 2 data points, not 4, 3 exactly. So here's another example. Maybe in the past, your manager would have said, that example I gave you earlier, hey boss, crazy night, we're short on Modelo, staff is stressed, talk tomorrow. What do you know? You know something happened. You don't know what that all means and why something was wrong. And like I said, you're going to lay awake wondering and then try to figure out what happened tomorrow when you get that phone call. Now on a 1-3-1, we could say this. We had 32% labor cost tonight, 7 points above target. That's our problem. Labor tonight was over by 7%. Our 3 data points. Our projected sales were 4,200. Our actual sales were 4,850. So we were 15% over on sales. There was an unplanned party of 22 that walked in at 8:45. They did not have a reservation. Our staff was scheduled. We had 4 bartenders and 2 servers. Our peak period was 9 to 10. All 6 of them were working at capacity. So what do we know here? We know that we actually did 15% better than we expected. We know that we had a walk-in at 8:45, and we know that we were running 4 bartenders and 2 servers. Right? We know our peak period is 9 to 10, and that all 6 of them were working at capacity during that period. We also know our labor was over by 7%. So what's the recommendation? It could be we move our Wednesday floor cut time from 10 p.m. to 9:15. So even though we had better sales, clearly we were overstaffed. We say we move that cut time. Then the next week, we try it and we see what happened. As an owner, now you know the problem, the data points, and you have a recommended solution. Now, just because your manager recommends it doesn't mean you always have to do it. In this particular scenario, because if we think about this scenario, we have some contrary data here. Labor was too high, but we sold 15% over what we expected. We had an unplanned party of 22 that walked in, and we were, 4 bartenders, 2 servers. For most bars, it's going to be relatively well staffed. So why was labor high? Well, maybe we need to look at what were sales per labor hour. Were those servers efficient? Were there issues getting food out of the kitchen? Was there some reason those servers lingered on the clock maybe too late into the evening? So I'm not sure the recommendation is what I would go with. But again, if we have a problem and our data points, now we can root cause this problem. We can dig in. And if you guys want to know about root cause analysis, there are other episodes that we go into that in depth. But now we have the information to dig in, and it's a 60-second thing they say to us. This was the problem. Here's 3 data points. Here's my recommendation. And from that, we can move forward. Now, how do you implement this with your team? Well, first of all, get your management team together and say, hey, here's this format I want you to use. 1 problem, 3 data points, 1 recommendation. Tell them you want that in your shift log after every shift. Whether that's a text message to you, if you're using Slack for employee communications, maybe that's a message in Slack. Maybe it is an email. Maybe it is written in a notebook. However that is, make it part of their nightly routine to summarize the night in your biggest problem, your 3 data points supporting it, and a recommendation. This will help you move fast, and by writing that down every night, you're going to see patterns, right? Are most of my problems labor? Are most of my problems food? Do I have customer issues? Are my customer issues because we're giving them bad service or because I have customers that like to get in fights or something? I mean, all this happens in the bar industry. So show it to them. Make it a standard that this is how you finish every night. As that becomes a standard, as you continue to push that way, your manager will start to think like that. And what happens when this works really well is your manager comes to you and says, hey, food cost was high. Here are my data points. Here's my recommendation. And you look and you go, yeah, that makes sense. Do it. Not only have we shortened our communication loop, not only have we made decisions quicker to happen, but we've increased our respect, if you will, or reliance on our managers in that they now are coming up with solutions. You're letting them do that. You're indeed delegating in this process. So this 1-3-1, 1 problem, 3 data points, 1 solution. When your managers speak to you in that way, it makes everything easier. And so I would highly suggest that you implement this in your bar. That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.